We're going to talk about this guy named John Raymond because it's a sad story and a scary story. And it's taken a couple years, but there's finally a resolution to this guy's story. Okay, back in 2022, this guy named John Raymond, who lives in Louisiana, he was the head of a place called Lakeside Christian School. And he was arrested in 2022 because he allegedly brought three kids into his office because he's like the head of the school and they were talking in class. So these three kids were sent to the principal's office. And then he proceeded to literally tape their mouths shut after wrapping the tape around their heads. And the students stayed in that condition for 45 minutes, according to the police, until other administrators, who felt very awkward about all this, cut the tape off. And this is a headline from when this happened. Slidell school leader admits to taping students' mouths, but said they were not harmed. Like, oh my God, you admit it. What are you doing? Not only that, look at this. Police in the same article here. Slidell police said that interviews of students as well as parents and faculty at the school led them to conclude that Raymond became angry and at some point used packing tape to tape the students' mouths shut by wrapping it around their heads. I mentioned that middle part. Police said the students complained that they had trouble breathing while their mouths were taped and that having the tape removed was painful. And this guy was booked into jail for 3 counts of cruelty to juveniles. So that is horrible, obviously horrible. Later on, John Raymond defended what he did. He defended it in a public statement by saying, number one, he gave the students the option of using transparent Scotch tape instead, but they said no. He also offered to call their parents and just suspend the kids, but the kids didn't want him to do that. And then number three, he asked the kids if they were in pain and if they could breathe. And they were like, we're fine, apparently. And he could not believe that people were treating him like the bad guy. This is an actual statement he made. These students were given a choice between suspension and temporary tape. They were never in any physical pain. Their breathing was never impaired. The tape was never wrapped around their heads, and it was often under 10 minutes. No student was ever treated with cruelty or harmed in any way. And by the way, the police record, having spoken to the kids and the other administrators, is very different from what this guy just said. So you get the idea here. This guy was not good. He's not a good dude. And not only that, and I take personal interest in this because you all probably know I'm a huge fan of Survivor. And it turns out this guy was on Survivor. There's our friend John Raymond. He was on season, I think that's 5, Survivor Thailand. And he was so bad. By the way, Survivor Thailand, they're on season 47 right now. Survivor Thailand is arguably the worst season that has ever aired for many reasons. And this guy was so unlikable on the worst season of Survivor that he was the first dude voted off like 20 years ago because he was on the island and everyone's like, we need to get rid of this horrible guy. And then they got rid of him. And it turns out like all the other people were also horrible for many other reasons. Like, but my point is, you would think a guy who appeared on Survivor for 4 minutes would have a little more self-awareness about how badly he comes across in social situations. But no, this guy learned nothing from his experience on that show. In fact, in 2018 and 2019, he ran for a seat in Louisiana State House on a campaign of loving Donald Trump and hating gay people because he's Republican. And the Republicans in the primary still rejected this guy twice. So very self-unaware. And it didn't stop there because guess what? Just a couple of months after he taped those kids' mouths shut, this guy got arrested again. What did he do this time? He was arrested on another charge of child cruelty. And let me share with you what he did this time because it's even more disturbing. Slidell police said the new allegation include Raymond holding a 4-year-old boy upside down by his ankles and whipping his buttocks and in a separate incident, covering the same child's mouth and nose with his hand to stop a tantrum. In a press release, police said witnesses reported Raymond's actions prevented the child from breathing to the point of him going limp. The witness, a staff member, said the child was out of it and lethargic and unable to stand. Like, oh my God. First of all, how is he still working at this school at this point? But Jesus, this guy has no ability to deal with kids who, by the way, by definition, are going to act out. Just awful stuff. So at that point, after arrest, like for the fourth charge, he took a voluntary leave of absence from the school, but also denied doing anything wrong. And then, like, he gave a speech that same month to the St. Tammany Republican Parish Executive Committee, like the local Republican Party, because he served as an elected GOP official with them. And he said the allegations were false. And look at what he said to them that same month. In fact, to acquiesce to the pressure of those who are not interested in the truth and serve myself up to this cancel culture on a platter of capitulation would only serve to weaken this Republican Parish Executive Committee and the Republican Party rather than strengthen it. He is like, they're trying to cancel me for beating up a kid and not letting him breathe. And if we allow them to punish me, it would hurt the Republicans. Like, maybe there's something wrong with your party at that point. Guess what? He was never asked to resign from his position there. The thought of doing so never crossed his mind. The Louisiana Republican Party State Central Committee, on which he also served, did not punish him either. Because why would they? Cruelty is their whole brand. So, in November of 2022, this guy, John Raymond, he's the pastor of New Horizon Church. He's the owner of a Christian radio station called The Bridge at this point. And at that point, he is formally charged with all these, alleged crimes. And he pleaded not guilty. By the way, separately from all of that, 4 parents also sued him over alleged abuse. And their lawsuit mentioned a totally different incident from like 2017 in which he allegedly assaulted another child and caused serious bodily injury or neurological impairment. And that's not even a part of this story right now. I don't know what's going on with that lawsuit. So, with all of that controversy, and now this guy is formally charged with hurting kids, he finally decides to step down from his professional positions and just, spend more time with his family. And I am just kidding. He did none of those things because of course he didn't. Instead, in May of last year, 2023, still dealing with these charges, he announces he's going to run again for the Louisiana State House. He was running for office last year. This is what he said at the time. I feel it's important to people who believe in conservative Christian principles hold positions to create laws to direct our state properly. I've spent 23 years serving St. Tammany Parish and promoting Christian conservative values, and I feel compelled to run to bring those values into law. Like, that right there is the epitome of the Republican Party. A guy who faces 4 counts of child cruelty is like, I'm the best option you have to write laws to protect kids from child cruelty. Actually, you know what he argued? His campaign promises included reject the woke trans agenda. Who do you think is a bigger danger to kids? Liberals who want schools to teach about slavery, drag queens, trans people, or the guy who's like putting tape around kids' heads because he doesn't know how to discipline anybody? Anyway, so if he won the seat, this guy would have been a Christian nationalist in office. Not only that, there was even more to it than that. Where did this? Here we go. In the article about what this guy stands for, this is interesting. He is a familiar figure in the Capitol who testified in multiple hearings last spring supporting bills like requiring schools to post "In God We Trust" in classrooms, officially allowing historical Bible courses to be taught in public schools, and in favor of LGBTQ restrictions. So that's what he was running for. He wanted to be the guy that was going to make all that stuff happen. And it was a reliably red district. So really, you just got to get past the Republican primary. The funniest thing about that whole campaign is that there was another Republican in the race that people could have gone for. And the amazing thing is, when the state's Republican Party issued their endorsements for those state legislative seats, they endorsed John Raymond and not the other dude, the other Republican. They said, yeah, we're still going to go with John Raymond. And this is hilarious. The newspaper talked about this. Louisiana Republican Party Chairman Louis Gervich confirmed in a text that the executive committee endorsed Raymond. Raymond's opponent in the race for the House District 104 seat, fellow Republican Jay Gaillet, of Mandeville, said he was shocked by the endorsement. As a lifelong Republican, it's an embarrassment, while he acknowledged Raymond's right to the presumption of innocence. The party puts itself out there as a protector of children, said this guy, a former Marine and businessman who now manages his family's real estate portfolio. I can't express how disappointed I am that the Louisiana Republican Party has chosen to endorse a candidate with not one, not two, not three, but 4 criminal charges of cruelty to children. First of all, my dude, do you know who the Republican Party at the national level nominated to be president? Like, this is not a local problem, my guy. This is a your party is broken problem. But anyway, fair point. Why are you endorsing the cruelty to children guy when I'm right here? He's saying. Hilarious, because he totally deserves it, because whatever, if you're running for a Republican, you deserve to have horrible things happen in your election campaign, right? Anyway, so those two guys ran. John Raymond had the endorsement of the GOP. And listen, there are many reasons to be embarrassed by the Republican Party. This is just one of them, who they endorse. Makes you wonder how bad of a candidate that dude was, that the state's GOP leaders are like, we should go with the alleged child abuser. He has a better chance of winning in the general. I don't know if this is good news or not, but that election happened in October of last year, and this is how it played out. John Raymond lost. He lost. He only got a third of the votes. The other guy took that race. He ended up, because he got more than 50% of the vote, it's a nonpartisan race. He's in the Louisiana legislature. So fine, interesting update. You would think after all this leaves John Raymond with more time to focus on his upcoming trial, right? So guess when that trial happened? It actually took place just this past week, maybe the week before, but like it just took place middle of this month. And it really became apparent that there was no strategy his legal team had in mind. No good one anyway. His lawyers were still going with the, why are you persecuting our friend here? He's done nothing wrong. That was their defense. Check this out. As the cruelty to juveniles trial of Slidell pastor and former survivor contestant John Raymond began Tuesday morning, his defense made clear what it believes the case is about. The left against the right. The conservatives against the woke. Attorney Joseph Long argued in his opening statement. He used the word woke in a courtroom. Like anyone else outside his bubble takes this seriously. Like this is not a debate or an argument between like everyone's coming after conservatives. No, they're coming after the guy who hurt children. And if your argument is this is a culture war battle, you're probably not going to do well. And then the lawyer kept talking because, of course, he did. Make no mistake, folks, this country is in the middle of a culture war, Long told the jury. In Europe, parents can't even physically discipline their children anymore. It's coming. This is government overreach, which is a weird argument to make. Like in Europe, they don't even let parents beat up their kids anymore. How, we don't want that. We live in America, damn it, and we should be able to hit and beat our kids all we want. That's what we're here fighting for. I don't know that argument is very compelling for a jury, but that's what John Raymond's lawyer was going with. And here's the good news from all of this. The jury listened to this insane lawyer and they heard the case against John Raymond. And guess what? He was found guilty of cruelty to kids this week. His sentencing, as you could see, takes place October 23rd. So, yay, he was found guilty. There's actually some sort of consequence for this. I had to look this up in Louisiana law. If you are convicted of cruelty to juveniles, and 3 counts he had of cruelty to kids, look at the punishment here. Whoever commits the crime of cruelty to juveniles shall be fined not more than $1,000 or imprisoned with or without hard labor for not more than 10 years or both. So basically, for each of those 3 charges, he might have to pay some money, but he could go to jail for 10 years each. 30 years in jail for those 3 counts. Will he get 30 years in jail? Absolutely not. But it might be higher than 0, which might be nice. There was also, he was found guilty of that 4th charge of 2nd degree cruelty to juveniles. And guess what the penalty for that one is? They shall be imprisoned at hard labor for not more than 40 years. So in theory, this guy faces up to, what is that? 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, 40 years. He faces up to 70 years in jail. He's not going to get that, but that is what he is facing. I mean, I don't think he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, but I have to think some jail time is in order. And all of that means there will finally be some measure of justice against this conservative Christian pastor with unearned confidence who felt he was on a moral crusade. Like, this guy has spent his life thinking he is God's gift to his community, no matter how much harm he leaves in his wake, no matter how much the people on the island do not like him. He dismissed every allegation against him as a hoax. He will inevitably say the jury was anti-Christian, his critics are anti-Christian, and all of that's going to be red meat for white evangelicals who ignore the facts of the case and focus on the verdict. But whatever, he's wrong and he deserves to be punished. One thing I found really shocking, his campaign website from last year's election is still up and running. And there is a thing on there where he talks about the positions he stands for and when he's testified in front of the legislature. And look at this line right here. Our children are our greatest treasure. As a state representative, John Raymond will always seek ways to protect the innocence of our children in schools and public libraries. And apparently he will beat the crap out of them until they cannot breathe. That's who Republicans apparently want to endorse for their races. Wild. Like, the kids will be safer with a guy like this behind bars. And we'll find out in a month if he'll actually face any substantial jail time. All right. I'm going to stop there. Let's take any other questions. Otherwise, I think I'm done for the night. What else we got? Yes, I agree with the 3rd and 5th sad faces. Very sad stuff. Angry stuff. Your live streams just fly by. Not according to my voice, apparently, but I appreciate the donation. Thank you so much, Sean. I would like to denounce all association with this Lakeside School. I don't know this guy. Thank you, Lakeside Flower. Yes, you are the good Lakeside. Does he have to be added to some registry? Ooh, that's a good question. Like, he's not a sexual abuser. He's just an abuser. I don't know if he's in registry, but like, if he goes to jail, I would imagine he would be searchable on some sort of Louisiana database. I don't know. That's what I was going to ask. At this point, the school administrator should be liable for malicious or negligent employment. This dude is a menace. Fire him already. That's a fair point. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if it's any different because it was a private Christian school. As far as I could tell from all the articles, the administrators were on the side of the kids. They also had to defer to the principal, but it sounds like they cooperated with law enforcement when it came to speaking out, laying the case against John Raymond. And it's possible that that's the reason none of them are being punished here, because they cooperated with the police to make sure the bad guy actually got caught. But you're right. If you're like, there's no innocent bystanders in this one. Why didn't the adults stop this stuff as it was happening? I don't know what was going through their heads. Well, I follow a Louisiana parole hearing YouTube channel. Really? Wow. And let me tell you, they really like to grant early release on child offense cases. Yikes. Well, that's scary and sad. I just want this guy to have some jail time. Let him actually be punished for the harm he caused. Because the second he's free again, he's going to think of himself as immune, invincible. He's probably going to run for office again, running off of his notoriety or something. So, I mean, that's troubling. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's wait and see what the judge punishes him with. He needs to go pray about it and everything will be fine, right? I'm sure. I'm sure the kids prayed long and hard and it didn't help them. But I'm sure this guy prayed and he's like, "Yep, God wants me to put tape around these kids' heads."